how it's very important for us to understand that, even the people who went about to invent let's consider the greatest inventors in the world. Some of the prolific figures who invented ideas and invented solutions to some of the world's biggest problems, right? We can think of the man who invented the light bulb, the man who invented the airplane, right? Someone who invented television, someone who invented the microwave, the washing machine. And when we look today at how these resolves have enabled our lives to be better, have enabled the trajectory of the world change, it's fascinating how these people and these individuals were allowing themselves to tap into their resolve in order to be the solution for the world, right? It's magnifying, right? It's just fascinating for me to have to even comprehend. But that proves to us that there's always problems around us. There's always problems around you that are requiring your resolve, that are innately within you, that no one else can understand. There's sometimes those problems that you find and you wanna do something about it. That's your resolve, right? That's where your purpose lies. And that's potentially be the ultimate purpose you're meant to serve, to be that particular resolve. Because you are the solution, and the system of the world, us as an entire, as the world, being designed in a systematic capacity, we need you and I and you and all of us to serve our purpose in order for us to function the system in a coherent way. Because then the world is not functioning thoroughly if you are not participating and playing your part, if you are not the resolve that you are. Because we all know that there's something internally within us that's burning, that requires us to do something about it. But we often ask ourselves, we often try away from this discovery because it is to some degree and to some element scary in its own way, right? So I want us to be aware of this from this moment onwards, knowing that I am a resolve. There's a resolve that I am presenting into this world. There's a part of the entire system there's an element that I am in the system that I'm meant to play. And without me playing that part, being that part of the system, then I'm not able to fully function. And by the word system, I want to use this word very carefully, because I want us to see it as I used the words earlier on system, but I also used the word establishment or structure, right? As a world structure, as a world, as this earth, right? We are an establishment, and we've been established in our different roles and in our different places and our different demographics and places of being. But we've been placed in those particular regions and places in order to serve a purpose. And that's why I use the word system to make it in its simplest form, because a system is something that we can identify with, right? Like I said, a car, its functions, a factory, right? If there's one machine that's not working in the system that's been placed for us to create this particular product, if one part of the machine does not work efficiently, their entire line of system is not going to work efficiently either. Right? So it's very important that we are aware that we are part of that machine that makes the world go round, that makes the world move around. And God has placed innately within us, within all of us, a part to play. So that's the first question we ask ourselves. What am I resolving? Because that's the first point of reference into understanding who am I and what am I meant to be. Now, though that was a second definition to this question, and I'm going to go to the first question now. But before I go into that, I would like for you to take some time, right, and make this investigation within yourself. And you might not even know you know, from yourself, or you might find it a challenge to dig deep within yourself, to having to understand what your resolve is, and what it is that you are meant to resolve, and what solutions you're meant to bring, and what part you're meant to play, right? Maybe perhaps ask those around you. Ask them, what is it that I am consistently talking about, right? That could be an interesting question to say. What topic am I passionate about? Because those around you are able to observe you from an external point of view. So asking your friends and family, what is it that I'm constantly passionate about? What do you guys see me doing without any hesitation or regard, but do it from an internal point of view and from a very confident perspective? And though they'll be able to share with you, oh, we find you, you know, being very passionate about social issues. And when you start talking about social issues, you there's a level of passion that we find within you. Or we find you passionate about sport. Or we find you passionate about the environment. Or you find you passionate about politics, whatever it might be, right? There's something that we all have that brings out the best of us, and those around you are able to see, right, and identify what that is. For me, it's speaking. It's being in front of you right now. It's you know, utilizing my gifts and my talents to share stories. And when I talk about television and film and speaking and hosting, I get so excited. I'm like, that's what it is that's the role I'm meant to play, and to patrician within the space, because that's the region, or the part of the machine. That's the function I'm meant to play. So we all have that, and those around us can help us identify that if you are struggling to find what that might be for yourself. So ask that question firstly to yourself. But there is something that you are meant to resolve, and that resolve might be an internal resolve, right? Or, you know, what do I need? What do I need to resolve for myself? First and foremost, what do I need resolved, and how do I make that first point of reference? Because if I'm able to help myself, I'm able to help others, and I'm able to participate and role play efficiently within this structure, system, and establishment called Earth, right? So what am I resolving firstly for myself? What am I resolving for my community? What am I resolving for my country? And then what am I resolving for the world? And we take it bit by bit in that sense, and we are able to then see, okay, there's an improvement in my understanding of what it is from here, from internally. What am I resolving? And then being able to then unpack it from there and kind of take it, you know, step by step from that point. Now I want to go to our second, or rather our first definition of the word, which is what Google explained as the reason for why something is created, or for why something exists. Now, this part of the definition really excites me, and I would really encourage you to go ahead and get yourself a copy of 21, because we go into much depth about this particular definition in the book, and you know, it's in the way in which we unpack it, and the way in which, you know, you'll be able to find references within that as well, to kind of find a clearer and a more defined understanding of it. And we're gonna breeze through it today, but really get the book in order to get the fuller extent of what that is. Now, I want us to fully understand, before understanding, you know, why something is created, we try for us to first take point of reference to why God created us, right? And what God's ultimate design and reason for creating us as human beings, as a collective, and why he then put within us individual purposes. What was that? What did that look like? And, you know, a very interesting quote by the Grand Canyon University Theology Department, which in essence is assisting and will help us understand and unpack this questioning and this topic and this definition in full depth. And the theology department explains that God created people out of love for the purpose of sharing love. People were created to love God and to love each other, right? Now that explains, or rather that could be our first point of reference to understanding why we were created. Like, why did God create us? And this department is thoroughly explaining that, God created people out of love and for the purpose of sharing love. That's the reason why we were created. People were created to love God and to love each other. And additionally, when God created people, he gave them good work to do so that they might experience God's goodness and reflect his image in the way they care for the world and for each other. I think I might just be able to, we can end it right there. We can finish off this session right there, because this explains in thorough, in a thorough way exactly what it is that we were trying to unpack today, right? He created us out of love. That's the reason why we were created. Right? We were created out of love to love God and to love each other. And then we were, the second part of that definition being for the reason for which something exists, which then he gave us a good work, right? To be stewards and to participate and do work and do something and play a part and have a role. In order to, as this explains, in order to experience God's goodness and to reflect his image in a way that we can care for the world and to care for each other. Because once we understand that what it is that God has created us out of love. God created us to love, and God created us in order to be able to do work and reflect his image in the way in which we care for the world. Because as I said earlier on, the world being a system and a structure and an establishment that needs to be well run and well functioned, right? So this really goes in depth with this idea and helps us understand it even more deeper and even more further. Now, the bbc.co.za guides, explains that most Christians believe that humanity's purpose is to look after the world that God has created, like caretakers or stewards, because creation belongs to God, not people. This is known as stewardship. So the idea of us playing a role and participating and our purpose and our reasoning for existence being in the idea of stewardship, right? And by us, we are stewards by allowing ourselves to play our part and allowing ourselves to play our roles and doing the work, to take care of the world, and the world requires us to take care of it by playing our part in it, right? By being in purpose and in alignment with what God wants us to be and who God has called us to be. And then in that way, we are able to merge, God's ultimate design with the ultimate design that we are meant to actively play in the world and take care of the world as fellow stewardships. Right, or stewards rather. And the association of, and I love these references that, these organizations are giving us, because it gives us a bit of context. The Association of Business Administrators of Christian Colleges explains it as humans were created with the intent of abundant living, fruitfulness and growth, multiplication and expansion, as well as structure and organizations, which are all part of God's plan. And these also include stewardship of society and care for the natural world. Oh my goodness. Now, this really kind of spoke to me in so many levels and in so many ways, right? Because when we look at us playing our parts and us solving and us being the resolve of solving problems and finding solutions, we actively actually find that the people who are the most successful in the world, the people who are the most purposeful in the world, are the people who are able to find resolve, right? Find resolve and solve and find solutions for the world's problems, like actual caretakers do. Caretakers find able to fix and whatever issue there is in an establishment are able to take care of it, right? So us finding our sense of resolve, and then secondly, understanding that that sense of resolve is meant to bring, as God's children, and as God's, as God's design, we are then intended within that resolve and within that reasoning and understanding of the existence, we are able to then access this abundance of living, this fruitfulness and growth, this multiplication and expansion, and the structure and organization. We are able to tap into that. We are able to access that by enabling ourselves to live in the resolve and to be the resolve, and therefore to also align with why we were created, right? Aligning with the word, with the love, loving oneself, loving what oneself is meant to be, loving what it is that is innately within you, that you've been given as a passion and as a desire, loving and falling in love with that. And then in that sense, by loving that and by being extremely comfortable with that, you are able to then exude the love because you've accepted who you're meant to be and have found the resolve within you, and that pushes out the most amount of love within you that you're able to share it with others. And that's where we are able to access this abundance, this fruitfulness and growth, this multiplication and expansion. And when we get to think about God's faithfulness and God's just reasoning for why we're here, and to think about things like fruitfulness and growth and multiplication and expansion, which I think now in this time and in this season and this world we're living in today, there's no better time for us to tap into this, because this is a time in the history of the world, in the season, where we have every opportunity to be abundant. We have every opportunity to be fruitful, because the world is shifting and the things are changing, and God is giving to us and upon us the next, and allowing us to move into this next era of time. Right? Technology-driven, AI-driven, IT-driven, all of the digitization of things, we are now being placed within that. And it is our responsibility as these, caring stewards to fully tap into that in order to be able to access and find what resolve are we bringing into this next frontier of the world. Find that resolve and live within that abundance and fruitfulness and growth and multiplication and expansion. I soak these all in because I am also like yourself and wanting to access these by accessing the true power of purpose. Now, you are created to live your purpose, and the beauty of it all is that the purpose that God has for your life is so perfect. And I would like for you to now start beginning and start to seeing yourself living within that purposeful life, and within that, access the comprehension of perfection. Within that purpose, understanding how to tap into the idea of perfection and the comprehension of perfection, because everything that God has made is perfect. And so are we, right? And we are only imperfect when we step outside of the one who made us perfect. So we need to be in constant touch with the perfection maker, right? And the one who makes us perfect. Because then, when we do that, we are able to access the full power of our purpose, because we do find times of imperfection and therefore need to connect to the source of the perfection, because he is the one who was able to make all things perfect. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And God says this, that he has the best for you, that he wants to bring out the best in you, because you are the best, because he's placed within you the best, right? And that's why his plans are perfect. That's why his plans are to give you hope in a future. And the time that we are in now, our purpose is embedded. Each and every one of our purposes is embedded in this time. We are living in the right time, at the right place, within the right location. And wherever you get to find yourself watching this right now, wherever you're finding yourself, and that could be geographically or emotionally or mentally, wherever you're finding yourself, it is important to then look within that and say, God, where I am, this perfect plan and hope and future that you have for me, which has been designed in a perfect capacity, which includes multiplication and fruitfulness, where is that meant to, how do I fully step into that? Because you've already placed it in me. You've already given it to me, right? You knew me before I was created. You knew the plans before I was formed in my mother's womb. So what was that plan, and how do I access that plan? How do I access that plan is by stepping into the understanding of who he is. And sometimes we shy away from this realization, and it's so difficult. And again, I get to unpack within 21, the book, why it is and how to become comfortable. How to become comfortable with that reality. Right? And by not reaching our full potential with the gifts and the talents that God has given us, to some degree, I would argue that this is an insult to God. Because when God has given you a gift and has given you a talent and has given you a responsibility and has given you a role to play, which that role, right, it's our responsibility to go about and discover, because it's already there. It's already within you. It's already a resolve that's buried and embedded within you. It's just a matter of accessing it, right? And we have to ask ourselves these questions. So we try not to insult God, or we shy rather to insult God by ensuring that we stick and understand what is it that he's given us. What resolve has he placed within you that you might not be tapping into, that you might be running away from? Because you might be thinking of the pressures of society. It might not be what is seemingly cool, but that is your resolve. That's where your fruitfulness is. That's where your abundance is. That's where your fruitful and expansion-based living is. So once we tap into that, right, we are then able to give God back the glory with our skills and our talents. And because ultimately we are here to serve and worship him through us being in this world, right? And it's very important that we tap into that ability within that skill, within that talent, and allow it to manifest. Because when it does get to manifest, then God gets the glory, which is what we are here to ultimately do. And, you know, for me, it's so heartwarming when I get to see what and how God's radiance gets to be brought out when someone is in their purpose, when someone is ultimately within who they're meant to be and what they were born to do. I get to see God's radiance, his power. You get to feel his power. And, you know, seeing the manifestation of greatness that is unexplainable and undefinable. Like, you can't define how you get to feel when someone is in their purpose, because you get it's like something kicks within you, because you also have innately that thing inside of you. So when someone has accessed it, it brings something out of you and you get excited, right? And I find my soul rejuvenated and healed and transformed when I get to see someone exercising their purpose. And, you know, the body and your soul and your mind gets to connect within that person's and that particular being's, you know, sense of understanding, because you know that there's a resolve that also lies somewhere within you, right? And you find excitement in this person being able to have identified that resolve and was able to step into that. And an example of this is when I get to see someone who is a purpose musician. And I say that and I explain that by thinking about people who music is part of who they are, and they're able to resolve, you know, things by singing. Like, there are people gifted within this gift that they are able to sing, and people's hearts get healed and people's lives get changed. And it's because they are in the ultimate, right? And that connects with the other being, that connects with the other person. And it's so beautiful to see and experience and find, right? I'm so happy that we are unpacking this in this time, because I know that God is doing something right now, and is reminding us, right, as we are in this time of change and things moving and things being redesigned, and there's a lot of newness happening right now, transitioning happening right now. So God is reminding us that we should not forget our ultimate purpose within that as well. And I understand that this is even a hard concept for myself to even explain, right? It's like, how do you explain this? It's a very difficult concept to explain, but I think it's worth attempting to try, because it's an unexplainable concept. It's one that really has no way of explaining or understanding. But we know when and how we feel it and when it comes about. So whatever it is, and you know what that is, you have the responsibility to discover it and to find it. Go forth then, go ahead then, and discover what is your resolve. What is that thing inside of you? What is that thing innately within you that is meant to help in this world play its part? What have you been given innately, directly, specifically? Because when we think about ourselves as beings, we all have different fingerprints. Each and every one of us has a different fingerprint. And that's proof in itself that God was very strategic in how he created us, for us to be aware that all of us have a role to play. And we play this role in our different capacities, in our different strengths, in our different colors and variations, because that's how he created us, right? We're short, we're tall, we are big, we are thin, we are, there's just so much about us. We are just this fruit salad that is just, God just marvels in. So within that, each and every fruit has its own protein, has its own, properties and elements that without one, you get to lose and not have that protein or have that type of sugar that's necessary for your body to grow. So those are practical examples that show us that even within the design of the world, there are those intricacies that make us so special and so different. So I urge you today to go ahead, go forth and go and find what is your resolve, and ask God, why is it that he created you? Because it's time that the world gets to see the best of you, and the world gets to experience the best of you, which is found in your purpose. So I hope that you're going to take all of these notes today, take it in, and go about and maximize your purpose. I am Vuyo Joboda, and this is the Purpose Series, and I hope that you enjoy it. Come back and join us again. Next time, we will be unpacking yet again the discovery of purpose. Now we know what purpose is. Now we know the understanding and the definitions of it. Next time, we'll be unpacking how to go about to discover your purpose. I'll see you all next time. And don't forget to get yourself a copy of 21, which is available across all bookstores right here in the US. So you can order your copy, of course, also on Amazon if you are in an international country. I'll see you guys on the next one rather. Goodbye and God bless.